Part 2 of my brother proposed to my fiancé, his ex, and I'm mad. If you haven't watched the first part of his story yet, click the link in the description. Now, second update 2 months after the first update. It's been a while since I've posted, but a few things have happened since my last talk with Mark. So, I've been low contact with Mark since our last conversation. I haven't called him and he hasn't called me. And our only interactions have been in family settings. As it stands, my mom is now upset that Mark is still uninvited for my wedding. It started with a comment made during my younger sister Sophie, 22 female's birthday. Her boyfriend of I think 4 years proposed to her at the end of the night, and we sat around talking about what she envisioned for her dream wedding. She talked a bit about wanting a destination wedding and her ideas for the cake and dress. Then she said something along the lines of, "Teddy, I know Mark's banned from your wedding, but you won't care if he comes to mine, right?" I laughed it off and told her I can't get mad about her guest list, even if I wanted to. My mom gave me this weird look and asked if Mark was still not invited to my wedding. I told her yes, and she got irritated. She told me she thought I was joking and said I was being unreasonable to go through with banning him from the wedding since his family. She accused me of holding a grudge just to be petty. I reminded her that he and I agreed on him not coming. I then told her that this wasn't a time to talk about my wedding since the day was about Sophie. And if Mark or her want to talk about my wedding, they can call me another time. Sophie laid into my mom a bit about trying to make her special day about Mark, and my mom dropped the issue. For those of you who might be wondering, Mark wasn't at Sophie's party because he apparently had to work and couldn't make it. A few days later, my mom stopped by my house and said she wanted to discuss my wedding. She asked me why I was so adamant about Mark not coming to my wedding. She said that I shouldn't be so insecure about Mark and Jen's previous relationship, and that uninviting him was a step too far. I told her again that Mark and I mutually agreed on him not coming to the wedding, and he can come to me about it himself if he has a problem with it. We got into an argument and she said that if I wasn't going to reinvite Mark, then she would not be coming either because I'm ostracizing her son. I shrugged and told her that if that's what she wants, then she can toss her invite to the trash, because I won't beg her to be there. She asked me if I would really be okay with her not attending, and I told her it wouldn't be the first time she missed an event of mine because of Mark. She said I was being an a-hole for throwing her past mistakes in her face, and she stormed out. I then started getting messages and phone calls from her and a few family members about the whole situation, saying I was in the wrong and urging me to invite Mark just to keep the peace. Jen's also been getting messages from my mom asking her to talk to me and get me to change my mind, but to my knowledge, she hasn't been responding. So far, most of my mom's side of the family are standing in solidarity with her and not attending, while my dad and his side of the family, which is only my aunt and uncle and their 2 kids, agree with me and are still coming. My sisters are also still coming to the wedding, and of course Jen's family too. Also, I talked to Mark about it and asked him if he had a problem with not having an invite. He said he uninvited himself in the first place, and he doesn't get why they're making a big deal because he still doesn't want to go. He told me to leave him out of the fighting because he's not involved, and he says he'd tell her the same. As of now, I'm back to being low contact with my mom, but my dad and I are still on decent terms. I'm still deciding on whether I'll reinvite my mom and her family, should they change their mind about a boycott, but the chances are low, and I told my dad this too, which he understands. For now, Jen and I started looking into downsizing the venue since the guest list is significantly smaller. Now for the comments before reading more updates. Well, now we know where Mark gets his crazy from. Yikes. I bet update 4 will be that Mama shows up in a white dress and makes an announcement of how Jen has torn her family apart. Update 5 will be how at her sister's wedding, she will talk loudly to anyone who will listen how horrible you both are. She needs therapy. Stat. We know where Mark gets his crazy from. First thought I had while reading this. Though I have to say that Mark's "I want to stay out of it and will tell mom to keep me out of it as well" stance is surprisingly mature here. If it's actually true and he isn't fanning the flames behind the scenes, that is. Mark is the golden child, duly noted. It's also so sad Mark won't at least tell his mommy that being uninvited to your wedding was his idea, and you just agreed with him after he requested it. I guess that's too much to ask. I've read your previous posts. I'm so sorry the both of you are having to deal with this. This is supposed to be a happy time for you both, and a 1-month relationship many years prior does not bar you from having a long-term relationship with your brother's ex. One, you didn't even know about it until after you both became serious. Brother Dearest is still very immature and needs to get over himself. Maybe get some therapy. Your mother sounds like a narcissist and needs to cut the cord to Mark. Stop protecting him and recognize that she has more kids to mother than Mark. Now for the third update. My mom is uninvited from the wedding indefinitely. About 2 weeks after she decided to not come to the wedding, she came to stop by and said she wanted to clear the air and talk about everything. We agreed and invited her in to join us for dinner. Jen made her a plate of food, and I asked her if she was still planning on not coming to the wedding. She said that while she wants to, she can't get over me not inviting Mark because of a simple mistake. I reminded her that a simple mistake was proposing to my fiancé with me sitting less than 3 feet away from him, and she said it was just a joke. Jen asked her why she wanted to talk if she was maintaining the same stance on Mark coming to the wedding. She said she wanted to talk to Jen, and she was hoping Jen would hear her out and talk me into inviting Mark again. She apparently assumed I was at work and should be able to catch her alone. Jen politely told her that she understood her thought process, but she wouldn't have had that conversation anyway without me present, since this is about my brother. My mom made a comment somewhere in the lines of Jen being spineless and unable to have a conversation without me thinking for her, which started a pretty heated back and forth between the three of us, before Jen told her to get out. She got up and started walking towards the door, and my mom followed her, still screaming at her. By this point, she's yelling about her tearing our family apart. While Jen was unlocking the front door, my mom grabbed her hair and pulled her to the ground, still screaming. She hit her and tried to claw her face, and I dragged her off of her and threw her outside. She banged on the door for a few minutes while I made sure Jen was okay, before she left and called both of us repeatedly. When I was sure Jen was okay, I texted my mom and told her not to bother reaching out again, because we'll never speak to her again. I called my dad and sisters and told them what happened too. My dad was surprised and tried to make excuses, saying she'd been stressed about this whole situation for a while. My sisters say they knew she'd snap eventually, since she's always been a crazy witch, and they said they'd come make sure Jen is okay. I asked Jen if she wanted to press charges, but she declined and said she only wanted to cut contact with her for good. I said that part was obvious, but she should still talk to the police since she was physically assaulted. But she doesn't want my mom to get arrested. My sisters and Jen's mom came by to comfort her, thankfully, so she's doing okay. My mom is blocked and everything, until Jen says otherwise. I genuinely don't know what to do now. Jen doesn't want to go to the police because she'd feel guilty having her arrested over this. But my sisters and I want to convince her too, and I'd at least want documentation in case something happens in the future. Edit. Some people were asking questions about my mom and my decision not to be open with Jen about my relationship with my parents. I figure I could give some background on why we're so strained. Like some of you said, Mark was the golden child. Mark was my mom's baby boy, and she didn't do much to try and hide it. They didn't spend much time with my sisters and I like normal parents did with their kids, unless they had to, but they'd spend time with Mark as often as possible, like taking him out shopping while we stayed with a sitter or bringing him home his favorite food and toys from the store where they'd shop alone. He usually got better things compared to the rest of us, like new expensive clothes while ours were thrifted, or new toys just for him compared to old toys we had to share with each other. If my sisters and I got gifts, they were for us to share, but my mom made it pretty clear that Mark's things were only for him and we shouldn't touch it. When Mark would screw up, I'd get punished for not being a good role model and showing him the proper way to behave. For example, Mark went through a phase of breaking his toys, and I got a beating because obviously he learned that behavior from me. When he was 8, Mark got in trouble at school for trying to push a kid down the stairs. I was grounded for 2 weeks and told to apologize to the kid for not teaching my brother right. When I turned 13, I pushed for my parents to start giving me an allowance. They agreed as long as I did household chores, like mowing the lawn, taking out the trash, raking leaves, etc. It was usually around $25 a week to help me start saving. Mark saw that I was getting money, and he begged my parents for an allowance too. Instead of making him work, $10 of my allowance money was given to him each week, because we were doing such a good job with our chores that he never touched. Whenever I ask him to help, he'd tell me it's not his job to do chores, so why should he bother? It was around this time that I started really distancing myself from my brother. By the time I entered high school, we only talked to each other when we needed small favors, or when we absolutely had to. I got my first job when I turned 17 because I wanted to finally get my own car and make money that they couldn't force me to give to Mark. My oldest sister Maggie helped me start my own bank account and showed me how to properly budget and save my money. I got my first car at 18 after all of my hard work. When Mark got his license, my parents asked me to let him use my car to get around and for some extra practice behind the wheel. Reluctantly, I agreed, and for a while, the arrangement was fine. Mark used my car when I didn't need it and helped maintain it pretty well. When he expressed wanting my parents to buy him his own car, my mom came to me and told me to give him my car because he needed it more. When I refused, she threatened to kick me out. We got in a fight that night, which ended with her giving Mark my car and taking me to transfer ownership of it to him within the following few days. Since I didn't have anywhere else I could go at a time, I just sucked it up and sighed it over. When I graduated high school, both of my parents skipped my graduation because Mark didn't want to sit in a long ceremony just to see me get a piece of paper, and my mom didn't want to leave him alone for the night. So I only had the support of my sisters and my aunt and uncle who wanted to take me out. They ended up having to bring me home at my parents' request because they made me dinner to make it up to me. It was a dinner I couldn't eat because my mom put shrimp and chicken on the same serving dish, and I'm allergic to shellfish. The first year out of high school, I worked 2 jobs to buy myself another car. And at the start of the new school year, I moved away for college and cut contact with them. They, mostly my mom, tried to reach out for the first few months via social media, and Sophie. But I never responded, and I told Sophie she would be cut off too if she kept trying. When she couldn't get to me through Sophie, she tried going through my older sister Charlotte, and a few times Maggie and Mark, until I threatened to file a restraining order for harassment. It was a bluff because I had no idea how to do it, but it managed to scare her off, and the most I got from her was happy holiday texts over the years. Around the time I moved back, Charlotte told me that they had been seeing a family therapist at Charlotte's request, and my parents wanted to apologize for their treatment of us. I was hesitant, but I agreed as long as they would be genuine, and a reconciliation process started when I moved back home. That doesn't even scratch the surface of everything they put me through, and it took a lot for me to even begin to let them back into my life. When I met Jen, I wasn't sure where my relationship with her was going or where my relationship with my parents was going. I didn't want to mention my family at all, mostly because I was ready to cut contact again if I needed to. Jen was understanding of it being a sore subject, and didn't press for more. I hope this helps shed some light on some of the questions I'd been seeing pop up. I would have made any reconciliation pivotal to whether or not they reimburse you for the car your mother stole. 1, I can't imagine favoring one child out of our 3. But 2, it's completely and horrifyingly unbelievable that your parents treated all their other children so awfully and incredibly disproportionately compared to the golden child Mark. And I'm really concerned that your sisters thought this was normal family dynamics to the point that they became flying monkeys for your mother. A, getting reimbursement for the car wasn't a hill I was willing to die on, since the damage was already done. Even now it's hard to believe Mark was the favorite. There wasn't anything really special about him. I don't mean that as an insult either. He was just a regular kid. My parents weren't having fertility issues. He wasn't a miracle, wasn't a meal ticket. They weren't having marital problems and using a baby as Band-Aid. He was just born and they decided to love him more than us. And believe me, they didn't think this was normal. They just have a soft spot for our parents because they are our parents, and they believe they have redeeming qualities. Mate, your parents and Mark are a-holes. You did the right thing by cutting your mother out and going low contact with your brother. Honestly, they're not family. You just share DNA with them. Live your life with the ones that matter and care for you. I do hope Jen presses charges. It sounds like the only way your mom will learn that actions have consequences. Take care and good luck. Thanks, bud. Pressing charges isn't in our future right now. We're just trying to get to the wedding. Now for the last update. I want to thank everyone who's taken the time to give me advice on what to do going forward, and all the kind messages and comments I've gotten over the past few days/weeks. Jen and I have read the comments together, and everything is appreciated. To answer the most common question about why I chose to reconnect after everything, the short answer is because I would do anything for my sisters. Charlotte wanted the entire family around for the birth of her first child and to help her while she adjusts. She didn't want part-time aunts and uncles who would only visit her kid during birthdays and holidays. She was never the type to ask for much of anything growing up, so when she asked if I would be willing to try for her, I agreed because it would make her happy. I also think part of me hoped that maybe they'd changed. I don't regret trying to reconcile either. My parents are still terrible, but I met the love of my life, so I call it a win. A few people wanted to know if there's an update, so here we go. Sorry if it's a mess or confusing. A lot has happened. We filed a report with the police and we were told that even though Jen doesn't want to pursue anything, it's not up to us to decide whether it goes further, but they would keep our preference in mind. We provided some pretty decent evidence of the assault, including pictures of Jen's face and texts with my mom and dad talking about what happened. We were advised to report and record any other incidents with my mom going further, in case anything else happens. Considering where we live, I doubt it'll go anywhere, but at least we have it on record. I got about 100 angry text messages that tell me they at least spoke with her regarding the incident. My mom tried to corner me leaving my job and screamed at me about trying to ruin her life. She kept screaming that I was an awful son for trying to get her arrested over a small misunderstanding, and she didn't understand what she'd done to deserve being punished like this. I told her that if she didn't like being in legal trouble, then she shouldn't have hit Jen. She demanded I tell the police to forget the report, which I refused. I told her exactly what the officer said about it being out of my hands. She had a tantrum in the parking lot and hit me a few times, just on the chest and arm before security intervened and dragged her off the property. I had to talk to my boss about the incident. Luckily, she was understanding of everything going on after I explained what was happening. When I got home, I told Jen what happened. She was upset and asked that we discuss the plan with my family moving forward. It was a long talk, but we took the advice of some Redditors and decided to go completely no contact with my family, aside from my sisters. We agreed that having them in my life is adding unnecessary stress for the both of us, and we aren't even married yet. She told me she wanted to consider moving away and putting some distance between us and my family. She said that she'd try to stay out of my family issues because it's not her place, but she refuses to put up with my mom and her behavior or my dad enabling her abuse. A lot more was said, too much to put in this post, but I agreed with her that they were more trouble than they're worth, and I also don't want to put up with this anymore. I also agreed to go to therapy, and she's helping me find a therapist. I decided to call my dad after our talk and let him know I would be going no contact. He didn't answer the first time I called, so I left a message asking to have a long talk. When he called back, he asked if it was okay for my mom to be a part of the conversation. I told him it was okay, since she needed to hear what I had to say too. The conversation went about as well as you could expect. I told them both that Jen and I are cutting them out of our lives. My dad demanded to know why I would do something like that, after going through all the trouble of repairing our relationship. I told him that this entire thing with Mark has shown me that nothing is actually repaired between us. And as far as they're concerned, the world revolves only around my mom and my little brother. I told him that their continued favoritism of Mark has brought our relationship to a point of no return, and that I wasn't interested in holding on to a failing relationship. I told them that I agreed to reconcile for Charlotte's sake, but I don't appreciate all of the disrespect towards me and Jen, and that I wouldn't put up with it anymore for both of our sakes. To my mom specifically, I told her that I was tired of her using me as a scapegoat for her bad parenting and Mark's attitude. I also told her that I would never forgive her for what she did to Jen and what she did to me and my sisters growing up. She started to say how I should move on like my sisters have, but I cut her off and told her that she should take her forgiveness and move on, because she would never receive it from me, especially after everything she's done this last few weeks. She started crying and asking me how I could treat her like such a villain. I told her she could only be upset with herself because I've done nothing wrong. She cried harder and told me how much she regretted having me and how I've only tried to ruin her life. This started a heated argument between her and Jen once again, and Jen told her in much more colorful words that she was disgusting, and plenty of other nice names, for saying something like that to me. I don't know if she left the room or just decided to shut up, but my mom stopped talking when Jen was done speaking to her. My dad said he wasn't okay with being shut out of my life, and he asked me to try to understand my mom's point of view. He said that she was also struggling because her kids were at odds, and I was being unfair to punish her for her struggles with raising and caring for us. The last thing he said was that we were a family, and I shouldn't let past mistakes stop us from moving forward. I told him that the only person she ever cared for was Margaret herself, and there was nothing he could say or do to make me change my mind. I told him that it was up to him whether to keep my number, but I would be blocking him and my mom everywhere, and I wouldn't be reaching out again. Then I hung up. Afterward, I sent a long email with a link to my posts attached to my entire family and inviting everyone, except my aunt and uncle and my sisters, to the wedding. I hadn't cried in a long time, but Jen held me while I cried after writing the email, and she assured me we would be okay. My sisters also reached out to me after reading the email. I apologized to Charlotte for not being able to continue reconciling like she wanted, but she told me it was okay, and it's not my fault I had to cut them off again. The response from my family has been pretty mixed. Some are angry I aired out family issues on a public internet forum, while others are pissed at my parents because they never knew it was this bad. The last person I talked to about everything was Mark. He asked if I was cutting him off too, and I told him I wasn't, but I wouldn't be going out of my way to reach out to him either. He didn't argue, and just wished me the best with the wedding, and we haven't spoken since. Right now, Jen and I are looking for a new place to stay. The plan is to move closer to Jen's brother. He lives about 3 hours from where we are now, and Jen and I like the city he's in. I spoke to my boss about transferring, and Jen is looking into the option of working 100% remotely or possibly finding a new job. And once again, our venue's changed. Since the guest list is significantly smaller, my future brother-in-law is considering letting us use his lake house for our wedding. I don't plan to post any more about this unless the sky falls, at least not until the wedding, because I want to move on with life. But I'll try to answer any questions some of you might have. Thanks and happy holidays. Thanks for the update. I believe you decided on the only possible way forward. Nothing you will say change your mom. She alone can only change her behavior. And perhaps if she reads all the comments on your Reddit posts, she might get an epiphany and realizes she is a pretty crappy person and has a lot of amends to make if she wants to keep you and possibly your sisters in her life. Maybe therapy can help her, but I doubt it. Best wishes for your upcoming wedding. According to Sophie, she's read a lot of them and doesn't think Reddit strangers have the right to tell her she's a bad person. Lol. I don't think there's any amending left in me. Wish them the best. Just as far from me and my family as possible.
Update. Am I the a-hole for not forgiving my daughter? Me and my daughter used to be best friends. We did everything together. She truly was the light of my life. But things started to change in her teens. Moodiness, lashing out, lies, etc. I just thought it had to do with her age. That she would grow out of it. I really tried everything. Family therapy, long talks about how much I loved her. But none of it worked. She would either roll her eyes back or spit more of her venom. My husband works really long hours and isn't of much help, to be honest. My husband is white and I'm black, so my daughter is mixed. But she looks white. She really takes after her father. This is relevant. I really don't know what I did wrong, but her dislike for me began to become pure hatred. She would question all the time how someone like me could be her mother when she was white and I was black. At some point, she even demanded a DNA test. I said sure, if she paid for it. She was not pleased with the results. She is 17 now and has begun dating this white boy, and she is head over heels for him. She refused to let me meet him and told me that having a jobless N-word for a mother truly shamed her. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I don't think I have ever experienced such pain. Long story short, I couldn't take her antics anymore and decided to go back to my family in Cuba. My daughter couldn't be bothered to even say goodbye to me. A few days ago, I received a message from my daughter asking for forgiveness. Lots of how she can't fit, is in a really dark place, and lots of excuses. It may sound cold, but I don't want to see her face. I don't care about her apologies. I thought I had made a right decision, but my husband thinks I should really hear her out and forgive her. My family has been harassing me to go back to Miami and make peace with her, especially mother, and friends have been reaching out and have even called me a crappy mom for not forgiving her, and how I must have done something for her to behave like she did. My anxiety has been over the roof and I'm back on my pills now. Is this really my fault? Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update 3 years later. Not the a-hole. As a mixed person, I would never say that to my black parent. And would never say that to anyone, period. She's your daughter, so I wouldn't kick her out of your life forever. Not that you were implying that, but remember this and don't forgive her right away. I would suggest therapy or time away for yourself. Also, you're not a horrible mom. Yeah, if she's 17 just now, then I'd say she may grow into a totally different person than a kid who treated Opie like this. I'm also mixed and cannot imagine saying this to a parent. A lot of young teens say and do horrific stuff, feel bad and learn from it, and grow into decent adults. Definitely needs to be therapy and get into why she was acting like this, healing wounds, discussing seemingly enabling dad, etc. But nobody will fault you if it takes a while before you even want that, Opie. I have to wonder who is filling the daughter's head with this crap. Does this come from her school, social media, etc.? It may be better if the daughter flew down to see the OP, paid for by both parents. That way, she can meet her mom's side of the family and see what life is like for them to get to know the Cuban side a bit better. OP isn't required to uproot her life just because the daughter has had a sudden change of heart. Daughter has to earn it. Absolutely not the a-hole. I hate to say it, but your daughter has been emotionally mistreating you, and your husband seems to be complicit in this. Not the a-hole. If any of us said anything even half that hateful to my mother, Dad would have been all over us. That would not be accepted and it would be made clear what our error was. Where was her husband in this? Now for the update. I know it's been 3 years, but several people still ask me about it because they saw my post on TikTok or other media. So, I wanted to make this post to thank everybody who gave me such kind and sensible advice 3 years ago. Even though I didn't reply, I read most of the replies, good or bad. And I'm thankful for all of you who encouraged me to give my daughter a second chance. I'll summarize it. I went back to Miami and she gave me a heartfelt apology and explained all the dark things her boyfriend was getting her into. We got into therapy once again. She left her horrible relationship, and these past 3 years our relationship has become better than ever. It was not easy, but definitely worth it. I'm glad I didn't give up. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling mom she's a terrible mother and giving her a 3-day notice to move out? I, 23 female, live with my fiancé, 23 male, and my siblings, 20 male, 17 female, and 15 female. I have been taking care of my siblings since I was 8 years old, simply because we have crappy parents. Our mom is an abusive narcissist and our dad is a passive-aggressive drunk. I've been responsible for the lives of 3 children since I was a child, but I love my siblings nonetheless. About 2 weeks ago, my brother came to me and begged me to let my mom come and stay with us for a few weeks because she had recently become homeless. I was reluctant, but reality is my brother pays bills here as well. And even though I don't have any love for either of my parents, I would never strip away the love my siblings have for them. As you can imagine, living with a horrible narcissist always ends bad. Despite making things unbearable since the moment she came, last night was the last straw for me. My fiancé or I make dinner every single night, and we all sit down and have dinner together. I made dinner last night and told my mom that it was ready. She got up and got in my face about how she doesn't feel loved here, and how I'm a crappy child, and saying things to my younger siblings that I won't even repeat. There was a lot of back and forth, but ultimately I got back in her face and told her she is a crappy mother. I told her how I've raised her kids for her, reminded her how 13-year-old me and my 11-year-old brother would have to steal food from the store to feed our sisters because she chose a man over us and abandoned us. Told her how I sacrificed my life because her and my dad were trash parents. It ultimately ended with a lot of back and forth and me telling her she had 3 days to get out. Now I'm morally struggling, mostly because of some of the things I said to her. I wasn't trying to be an a-hole, but just years of everything broke me down. Am I the a-hole? Edit. My sisters feel the same as me when it comes to our parents, as in no love for them. However, my brother have always had a soft spot for our mom, which of course I don't fault him for. He's just a boy who wants his mother's love. Not the a-hole. She needs to go before she does any more damage to your siblings. And you. He wants a relationship with his mother? It has to be outside your home. Yep, this. I get your brother still seeks his mom's attention, but don't sacrifice your other siblings for his blind love/loyalty. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Setting boundaries and enforcing consequences, especially with parents like yours, is paramount. You need to protect your peace and your family's well-being. Your cup can't spill over for others if it's not filled up for yourself. Not only that, this gal needs to be in a lawyer's office yesterday. Her mom cannot be allowed to be in a position to claim custody and ruin her siblings' mental health further and worse, especially if they're away from her sight. You are absolutely not the a-hole. What you are doing for your siblings is amazing. Your siblings are extremely lucky to have a stronger older sibling, as thoughtful and as caring as you are. She got up and got in my face about how she doesn't feel loved here and how I'm a crappy child. Ridiculous comment. Maybe if you didn't have to be a parent to your siblings, you might have time and energy to show more love to others. Sorry to your mom, but you and your siblings come first. OP, you are amazing doing what you're doing at such a young age. The audacity of the mom to call her child who is taking care of all of her other children a crappy child? I hope that she has no custody of the other children. Next story. Am I the a-hole for letting my cousin starve? A lot of emotions are overwhelming me right now, so I'll try to keep it simple and to the point. My male 27, cousin female 29, let's call her Sue, is an artist. By that, I mean she has a bachelor in fine arts. Ever since high school, her dream has been to become a world-renowned artist, akin to Picasso, Dali, and whatnot. But honestly, she doesn't have what it takes to be on that level. Thing is, she refuses to work in an industry where her skills would be needed. The most work she's ever done is as a cashier in retail, forever hoping she's gonna hit it big with one of her artworks. Now, I always felt bad for Sue. Her mother made a lot of poor financial decisions and her piece of trash father walked out. My parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles helped them out financially from time to time, but their attitude towards my aunt was always, she did this to herself. Our family members were extremely angry that Sue chose to pursue fine arts. They all grew up during communism and see this sort of degree was a waste of time. So, they essentially stopped giving them any form of financial aid. I never stopped. About 5 years ago, my friends and I got really interested in D&D. Essentially, I talked to Sue and told her I'd give her a monthly sum of money and, in exchange, she'd draw stuff for my D&D campaigns. She was reluctant at first, saying her art is not for this sort of simple things, but I think her mother convinced her to take the deal. Initially, things were working out. I'd pay her every month and she'd send the drawings on time. But as time went on, she began being more and more off deadline. I'd always pay her on time, but she'd be weeks then months late. Last commission was for 10 artworks for a new campaign, and she's essentially ghosted me for 4 months about it, while I've still been paying her. I had to delay the start 4 times, and it really ticked me off, because at this point, it's about me letting down my friends. So I canceled the January payment. She couldn't even be bothered to contact me immediately. It was only 8 days later, she angrily calls me asking why she has no money in her bank account. At the time, I was tired and her attitude annoyed me, so I gave it to her straight. I told her how she should be thankful for what I'm doing for her. Instead, she bites the hand that feeds her. How instead of dreaming she'll make it big, she should use her skills to look for a real job. I told her to stop being a leech to her family, and of course that she won't see a dime from me until she finishes those damn drawings. And after that, our deal is off. My aunt called me, crying and begging to send Sue the payment, otherwise she'll have to starve for the month. I don't really have anyone to talk to about this, and I know for a fact my family members would just encourage me to stop helping them. But my wife's attitude towards this problem is along the lines of, we can't afford it, so just help her. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She agreed to create art for payment, like an artist does. If she either feels D&D is beneath her or cannot keep up with her commitments, then that's her problem. Seriously, she did what every famous artist pre-20th century did. Found a patron who'd pay her bread and butter to create art. Then she decides she doesn't want to make art for her patron, so the patron lets her go. You give no service, you get no goods. So completely off topic, but that's my theory on Winchester House Psychic. I think she made every single thing up just because she found somebody to pay her and believe everything she said. Lol. Not the a-hole. If I don't show up / don't do my job at work, I don't get paid. This is life. You've been more than generous. You won't be responsible for her supposed starvation. She is responsible for her own life, choices, and money. They are called starving artists for a reason. All the examples given by the OP are of artists that died poor. They got famous centuries after their deaths. Lol. Not the a-hole. You're not doing your cousin any favors by continuing to pay her for doing nothing. I've been a working artist for many years, and most people like me never achieve what your cousin is dreaming of. Continuing to wait for it while doing nothing to generate regular income is not going to work. Most artists never have that one piece that hits and make them famous, and have to learn to create many streams of revenue in order to keep themselves going. So for me, that means selling original work, but also selling image sheets, teaching classes, ad revenue from 2 of my 4 websites, running a Patreon and a Substack, building my following in social media, having designs available on print-on-demand sites, books on Amazon, whatever I can think of to bring a few bucks in. Your cousin needs some hustle. Withdrawing your support might light a fire under her butt, which is what she's going to need to make it as a working artist. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's girlfriend why we don't talk, causing them to break up? So, long story short, I, 35 male, and basically been no contact with my dad since I was like 22. He will text every now and then, which I will normally just ignore. He has been seeing his new girlfriend about 1.5 years now, and for whatever reason, decides to show up for once to his grandson's first birthday. My sister's kid, not mine, and he brought his girlfriend with him to introduce to the family. Now, I am a smoker, as is she, bad habit I know. So I announced was going to be outside for a few minutes and she followed suit. We got to talking and she asked why myself and my sister don't talk to my dad or ever reach out, and I told her exactly why. When we were kids, my dad would either be at work or golfing and basically left our mother to raise us. He makes good money, about $150K a year at a time, now even more. But I had to delay college until I was 25 because I was considered a dependent. and FAFSA for student loans purposes goes off your parents' income. So I qualified for 0 loans, and my dad offered 0 help. So I got a job after high school and moved out, supported myself until I was 18, and went back to college at 25. I graduated with debt, but it's manageable. And I told her at no point has he ever offered any support to myself nor my sister, emotionally or financially, and that he was a cheapskate that cares more about himself than his own family. Now, to my surprise, she had already started noticing these characteristics of my father, and hearing what I had to say just confirmed everything for her. They broke up a few days later after she called him a deadbeat dad and a cheapskate. My father has been blowing up my phone, calling me an entitled a-hole and saying I was an adult and should have been capable of doing it on my own, which I did at 18, with no help. He said I had no right to say that, and I told him maybe if he had been a father, I wouldn't have the need to. Am I the a-hole for airing out my grievances to my dad's now ex-girlfriend? Not the a-hole. You told the truth. If he wanted you to tell a different story, he should have lived a different life. This is a good point. Thanks. Not the a-hole. You are not the keeper of your dad's reputation. If he sees nothing wrong with how he treated the two of you, he should have no problem with anyone knowing. Don't feel bad. You saved that woman some time. How was that quote again? If it can be destroyed by the truth, it should be destroyed. Besides, she was already doubting him. No wonder. If one of your children cut you, maybe it's a child's issue. But if both cut you, well, chances are you are the issue. I have to assume that Opie's dad and girlfriend showed up to the birthday party because the girlfriend had started asking questions like, "Why do you never see your children or grandchildren?" So they came, and Dad hoped against hope that his kids would portray a happy, loving family so that his girlfriend would be impressed. Then Opie went and ruined everything by answering a question honestly. Not the a-hole. If I was the girlfriend, I would have dumped your father too. You have a right to be honest about your relationship with your dad. To be honest, you did a girlfriend a favor by being honest. Seems like your father just showed up to the birthday to fake being a good parent and the girlfriend caught on. The girlfriend asked about your relationship with your dad because she noticed that he might not be a good father to his current kids and wanted the truth. You didn't tell her to dump your father, and it was her choice. If your father wasn't willing to help his own son through college or come to visit his grandkids, it is clear that he won't be a good father to their kids if she were to have one with him in the future. In her words, deadbeat. My mom divorced my dad for the same reasons. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé if I see her friend again, I'm calling the cops? Plus update. Me, 29 male, and Erica, 27 female, dated for 2 years and have been engaged the last 4 months. After we got engaged, Erica moved into my house. I still pay the mortgage, while she pays for utilities, groceries, and household items. After we get married, the plan is to put her on the house so she gets equity as well. Her friend Leah, 27 female, and her have been best friends since high school. I don't particularly like Leah, but I've also been cordial as I know she's gonna be in my life. My issue is Leah thinks of my home as hers. Couple examples. She always brings her boyfriend over and he's a sketchball. She talks to me in a very disrespectful way in my own house, like I'm a guest, and she/Erica own it. One day I went out to my garage and some of my tools were missing. I checked my camera and Leah/boyfriend were in my garage with Erica and took some tools with them. I asked Erica, and she said they were just borrowing and would return them. I had to reach out multiple times for them to finally return the tools weeks later. I have a nice wine/liquor collection, and I was working late on Friday. While working, I heard some clanking of bottles together. Erica wasn't home, so I went out to see what was up. Leah was behind my bar. I asked what she was doing, and she said Erica told her it was okay to borrow a bottle of wine for her party and that she would pay it back. I told her no, that was not all right, and to leave. I asked Erica about this, and she said, I don't remember telling Leah she could take a bottle, but I might have, I don't remember. I told her at this point I wasn't comfortable with Leah being in my house. Erica sort of understood, but she also blew me off. Final straw came when I wanted to go hit some golf balls and my clubs were missing. I freaked out because I golf regularly and my clubs are my biggest investment. Went to check the camera again and Leia used my garage code and took the clubs. I blew up. Called Erica and told her to get them back immediately. Erica said Leia had asked for the garage code to grab some clothes from her closet, and not my clubs. I threatened to call the police, but Erica stopped me. Leia kept telling us that her boyfriend needed them for a work thing. I got them back almost 4 days after they were taken, and they were dirty. At this point, I sat Erica down and told her that if I see Leia in my house again, then I'm calling the cops. No discussion. Erica got upset, saying that it's her best friend, and that it wasn't fair to do to her in our house. I said it's a pattern, and since Erica's stuff isn't affected, she doesn't care. I said she can go over to Leia's if she wants to see her. She said she can't do this because Leia doesn't like her apartment, and Leia's boyfriend is always there, which makes Erica uncomfortable. I'm now getting the silent treatment and getting called an a-hole, but I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. Am I? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Do not put this woman on the deed to your home. Heck, don't marry her. You don't have a Leia problem. You have a fiancé problem. Time to move on, buddy. Not today, home. I agree. OP, open your eyes. Agreed. Erica is allowing this to happen. There are a lot of boundary issues that shows as red flags. The fact that Leia has her code and lets herself in without letting anyone know is a problem. And you can truly see that Leia does not give a single damn. She got outed multiple times on camera, got caught nicking a bottle of wine, and did not care. Leia does not respect the OP, plain and simple. And Erica is fully endorsing this behavior in their house that she does not own any part of. I'm starting to think Leia did, in fact, have Erica's permission to take that bottle. Erica just backpedaled and threw her friend under the bus when Opie got upset. I wouldn't be surprised if Leia also thought she had permission to borrow the clubs. After all, we know Erica gave her the key/code and gave permission to borrow the tools. Either way, neither of the ladies have boundaries. But this sounds like an Erica problem. Also, I would keep copies of the security footage, just in case, and change the garage code. Already have done these things, but thank you for the advice. I won't give Erica the new code. She has the clicker to get in and out, but I'm not comfortable giving her the code until this whole situation works itself out. If you can't trust your fiancé with your security code, you guys should see someone together before you get married, and have a lot of discussions on your future and how you both see things. And now for the update. I want to thank you all for the kind words and comments. I knew after reading the comments that it was time to come to a resolution. I decided to drive home from work and talk with Erica. When I showed up, Leia's car was parked in the drive. I went inside and they were watching TV. I told Leia immediately to get out. She tried to argue, but I told her if she didn't, then I'm calling the police. Erica tried to get pissy that I kicked her friend out, but I said I'm done talking about Leia because at this point, nothing is changing with that relationship. Sat Erica down and showed her this post. 20 minutes of reading later, I asked her what she thought. She said, "Those people don't understand our relationship, or Leia." I knew then that it was over. I asked her to hold out her hand and I took the ring off. She begged, saying she's sorry, and she'll cut Leia off, etc. I told her I can't even trust her with a garage code. How am I supposed to trust her as my wife? She's locked herself in our room now and I'm in the kitchen packing up her things. I called her mom and dad telling them about what has happened, and they were furious. Leia's apparently banned from their house. It has been since high school. I didn't know this, but her parents said it's been like this since high school. They're coming this weekend to get Erica and the stuff. I couldn't be any happier than I am right now. A huge weight feels lifted off my shoulders. I felt like if I never made this post, I wouldn't have ever seen how messed up my life had become. Sincerely, thank you everyone. Can't wait to take my clubs out and play around now that I have more free time. Really excited to see what single life brings and can't thank you all enough again. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my girlfriend inconsiderate for the way she tested me? My girlfriend told me that she tested me by canceling a date when we first started to go out. It was the date where we were kind of planning to hook up for the first time. For context, she lives in the city while I have an hour drive. She waited until I was halfway to the city before canceling. I remember texting her as I got into the car and telling her I was on my way, and she still waited until I was halfway to the city. She had a lot of opportunity to cancel before I had driven half an hour. The date being canceled sucked. But she told me she was feeling sick, and I told her it was okay and told her to get better. I had also asked her if she wanted me to come over, and she said she didn't want to. She told me that it was a big moment for our relationship as she found that I'm very considerate. But honestly, I get why she wanted to test me, but I really am pissed off in the way she tested me. She had no consideration for my time and effort. It was as if she really wanted to inconvenience me to see how I would react. I told her that it was pretty inconsiderate to wait until I had driven halfway to cancel, and she had been really inconsiderate in the way she tested me. She apologized half-heartedly and then said it was not a big deal and it has been 4 months. I told her it was a big deal to me, and we had an argument about it. I feel like an a-hole because it feels a really small thing to get mad about. Not an a-hole. The fact that she isn't remorseful at all, that's your second red flag. The fact she's made you feel like the a-hole for being rightfully upset, that's your third red flag. This chick is a manipulative, gaslighting trouble box. I think you were right. Dear God, I'm dating another version of my ex. It's pretty bad when the administrator of the relationship test miserably fails it themselves. Even worse when they fail to allow for the possibility that the other person might actually be dissatisfied with them. She should have kept quiet about her little test. Your behavior on that day was appropriate and considerate. Good for you. Obviously, you passed. But now, going forward, when anything comes up, you may be wondering, is this a test? And is this a test? And is this a test? Because yeah, it might be. You need to have a little discussion about this. This is not a small thing to get mad about. Not the a-hole. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for buying a door to my son behind my husband's back? For those who might have been confused, my 35 female husband 46 male believes that until he is 18, our son male 14 shouldn't conceal his room as he is under our care. This has been one of the things straining our relationship lately, as I think that a teen should have some freedom. Maybe not completely out of our sight, but you know, a door at least. But my husband keeps insisting on him having almost no freedom at all. Whenever I bring up the door thing, he just shuts me down with, this is what it'll take him to be a man, and this is how I was raised. So, both my son's birthday and Christmas are coming up, and I decided that he should finally have a door to his room. So I went behind my husband's back and bought a new door, and heard it to be installed while they were both away. When my son came from school, he was incredibly delighted, but my husband didn't receive the news so well. He told me that this is not the kind of decision that I should be making by myself, and that I disrespected his authority, and now he's refusing to even sleep in the same bed as me. I've been wondering if this should have been a conversation rather than me disrespecting his wishes. So, am I the a-hole for going behind my husband's back to get a door for my kid? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Your husband is super controlling. Scary, frankly. Not only this, but it's mistreatment. When CPS found out I wasn't allowed a door, that just had a curtain, and that my mom's boyfriend would sneak down the stairs unexpectedly to yank open at random intervals, it almost caught me naked while I was changing a few times. They went off. Not only is it maltreatment, it's a fire hazard. If you have a house fire, your son has nothing to stop that fire from entering his room before it can get out this window, which would likely result in either massive bodily injury due to burns and smoke inhalation, or at worst, death. The husband is mistreating and putting his son at risk. Some kind of man he turned out to be. Edited to add, please find a safe way to leave with your son. Frankly, I'm worried that things will escalate in the way he treats the both of you if you continue to stand up for yourself with your shiny new spine OP. I don't want you trapped in a home with a violent person. No one deserves that. Not stay home. Your husband was the one who made the decision to not let him have a door, without your input, and now you've shown him what that's like, and he doesn't like it. My question is, why have you stayed so long with a man who treats your son this way? Yes, this feels awful. And frankly, I have an insane amount of resentment for any man who seems to think he automatically has authority and dominion over his home as the ultimate ruler. BS. Opie's not the a-hole for getting him a door. But if she doesn't realize that this is going to be a never-ending battle in his teens, and that he's going to leave and not come back once he turns 18 unless they get their act together, she's got some very rude surprises coming. Not the a-hole. There are bigger issues here than the door, which is already a big issue. I believe not having door or any right to privacy is maltreatment. I'm sorry your husband was brought up in an awful home, but that doesn't give him the right to mistreat your son. You had your son at 21 when your husband was 32. That's a concerning age gap. And when it's combined with your husband constantly shutting you down, punishing you and your son for disrespecting his authority, and you feeling the only way you can have a say and do something for your child is by sneaking around your spouse, it all combines to worrying conclusions. I'm worried your husband has an unhealthy totalitarian head of household mindset. There is no excuse, be it upbringing or religion, for his behavior. Think about if the status quo is really what you want for yourself and your child. Last story. Am I the a-hole for canceling a vacation with my fiancé and taking my daughter on a vacation? My daughter Maya, 16, has severe anxiety. She goes to therapy and is on medication, but we still can't push her too hard on certain subjects like school. I've always had a policy that as long as she tries her best and passes, I'm happy. My fiancé has been encouraging her to work harder and get better grades. She usually gets B's and C's, so she could get into a good college. I've always shut it down because she plans on going to community college, then wants to transfer to a local state school and her grades are fine for that. My fiancé made a deal with Maya behind my back that if she got straight A's this semester, he'll take all of us to Disneyland for her birthday. But if she gets a B, she gets nothing. He told her that if I knew about this, I wouldn't let him take us to Disneyland. Maya has been dying to go, so she stayed quiet. I noticed that she's been a lot more stressed out over the past couple months, but she just kept telling me that the classes this year are a lot harder than the past few years. And I know your junior year is supposed to be one of the hardest, so I believed her. Last week was study week before finals, and on Friday, she broke. She broke down crying about how she couldn't do this, and told me about the deal she made with my fiancé. I was livid when I found out. Maya has been a wreck since then. She's barely speaking, doesn't eat much, and has asked me to sleep in her bed every night. She was sent home from school early every day this week because she either threw up from stress or had panic attacks. My fiancé, Maya, and I were going to go on a 5-day ski trip, but when I heard about a bribe, I canceled the hotel and booked a last-minute trip for Maya and I to go to Disneyland and Universal Studios this week. She busted her butt this year and deserves it. My fiancé is expecting me to pay for half of the cancellation fees and for half of the activities that can't be refunded, and we got into an argument and are not speaking at the moment. I know this relationship is over, but I wanted to know if I was the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I see what he was trying to do, but this is obviously not the way. He messed up all the progress Maya achieved via therapy and hurt her more than helped her. Actually, what does your fiancé expect her to do if she gets to good school? If she cannot handle stress from high school, why would you stress her even more with very demanding uni? It's all messed up. I'm glad you stick up for your daughter, enjoy the trip, and have awesome mother-daughter experience. I hope you said a girl will start at the community college for 2 years. That is actually a smart way to do it. Much cheaper as well. Much better for a student who needs support and struggles with anxiety issues she's still getting under control too. Not stay home. Your fiancé manipulated your 16-year-old daughter behind your back. Even if he truly believed that getting her to improve her grades was for her own good, it's totally inappropriate to have gone about it in this manner. And of course, you had very good reasons for your parenting decisions, as we can see from her suffering now. Furthermore, convincing her to keep a secret from her mother is incredibly dangerous. She's now more at risk from predators who use the same tactic. You shouldn't have canceled the ski trip. You should have simply informed him that since he arranged the trip under false pretenses, he is on his own. You will not be attending or paying for any part of it, since you now have to take care of your daughter and the mental anguish he inflicted on her. Not stay home. Your fiancé manipulated your daughter into lying to you, which seems like would never have happened to begin with if it weren't for him. He set a precedent in his relationship with her that it would be okay to do something behind your back, as long as the outcome was favorable to him. He endangered her mental and physical health for his faulty ideology that going to a standard 4-year good college is the only way to become successful in life. If this ploy would have been successful, what would have been the next thing you felt he needed to correct in your parenting behind your back? I wanted to say you should pay the fees, but the more I think about it, the more I feel it should be payment for him manipulating everyone.